رضاه أحب لقاه يظل يجيء إلى.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Radio Islam International. You are listening to the program You Are Loved, and we are discussing about narcissism. We have online Malana Nazir Ahmad Ragi. Malana, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Malana, we were discussing in our last topic, we were discussing about when women put themselves into a secret situation, they are at risk, great risk of being oppressed and blackmailed by immoral men. While the practice of secret marriages is more encouraged by men, there are women who initiate this too, and we discussed the two different types of marriage that we see that is common in today's time. The one is known as mut'a, where people have marriages for enjoyment, and the other one is misyar, where people are living separately and coming together for intimacy. The question that comes about in today's topic is what is the ruling on secret marriages?
Yes, Maulana. Before we go on to the aspect of secret marriages, I think we had discussed some of those things last week, and we can continue discussing that. However, whilst we spoke about secret marriages and all of that goes with it, I think we need to address the issue of polygamy as well. So a man must be able to afford having up to 4 wives, if that's what he desires, because he's expected to provide for them equally. However, we find that most narcissists, however, will exploit women and take advantage of the convenient situations and opportunities to have halal mistresses in secret, especially if they are already married in a proper way and have a family. Now, they will also make it clear from the beginning that they don't want children and will often force women to abort a baby if by any way they become pregnant. If the woman keep the baby, then it's likely that they will be divorced and even sometimes just abandoned by them, because they don't want to risk losing their grade A source of supply, which is obviously the first wife and family, if they found out. Other narcissists will force their first wives to accept them having a second wife, whether before they marry again or afterwards, by using misinterpreted information about their Islamic rights to justify it. The consequence of marrying such men are reflected in the very high and growing number of single Muslim mothers in our societies. And this is becoming extremely on the increase. Now, when you ask the question about secret marriages, what is the ruling regarding secret marriages? Most Muslim scholars, in fact all, have claimed that secret marriages are invalid because they don't fulfill the conditions of the nikah contract, which are, for example, there has to be the presence and permission of a woman's wali, a male guardian, usually her father or brother, must be given if she hasn't been married before. If she's a widower or a divorcee, her male guardian doesn't need to give his permission or be present, but even then, it is better for her if he is present. At least there should be 2 witnesses that must be present. Both the man and woman need to agree to the marriage. That is, they aren't forced or being pressured to marry each other. Now, in secret marriages, most of the time, the wali is not there. Even witnesses most of the times are not there. It is just the wife giving permission or the lady giving permission. Now, a public marriage announcement in the form of a walima is also among the appropriate ways of having a marriage, valid. So there has to be the presence of a representative of the bride. There has to be witnesses to the marriage. And more importantly, there has to be a public announcement of the marriage. And the public announcement of the marriage is most of the time by means of a walima. Then there has to be the mahar, the bridal dowry. And unfortunately, in secret marriages that don't follow these conditions, it all falls under the ideology and the concept of adultery and zina. So in secret marriages, when there aren't witnesses, where the guardian of the wife is not present, there is no dowry, there is no public announcement, such marriages would always fall under the concept of zina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of all the issues that come with those who marry or prefer to marry in an incorrect manner and commit clear zina, and has told chaste, honorable, noble Muslims to avoid these types of marriages. In fact, Naqil ibn Yasar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said, for one of you to be stabbed in the head with an iron needle is better for him than that he should touch a woman who is not permissible for him. So these types of warnings are there to avoid secret marriages. And secret marriages does not legalize a relationship, and therefore Islam does not approve of these types of marriages. Islamically, it's not accepted for someone to deceive a good and chaste person about their past, and whilst they are under no obligation to expose their sins, they should not approach people whom they know are chaste for marriage unless they've sincerely repented and know that their sins and excess won't come back to bother or haunt them. Muslims should not expose to people the sins that Allah Ta'ala has hidden for them in order to protect and preserve their sense of shame, their honor, their respect, and guilt when doing something wrong. If all people expose their sins regularly and talk about what they did, they will realize that a lot of others are doing the same. And so the sins will start becoming normalized as they are today. There's also a chance that people will encourage others to sin in the same way if they talk about what they did in a positive and appealing manner, such as having secret marriages. Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala anhu has narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said, everyone from my nation will be forgiven except those who sin in public. Among them is a man who commits an evil deed in the night that Allah Ta'ala has hidden for him. Then in the morning he says, O people, I have committed the sin. His Lord had hidden it during the night, but in the morning he reveals what Allah Ta'ala has hidden. So in a nutshell, Maulana, what we've learned that secret marriages are not permitted in Islam. These types of marriages lead to lots of chaos in communities, in societies. It leads to a lot of immorality. And these types of secret marriages, if later people start talking about it, of how they have committed this, it will also result in people regarding these types of marriages as normal, which will result in the spread of immorality. And therefore, Islam, as being a chaste and pure deen, would always prohibit anything that leads to immorality. Maulana, are you there? Okay. Anyhow, I think, Maulana, I'm not sure if you are there, if you can hear me. I continue. Aside from the codependents who seek sexual validation, there are other codependents who believe that their worth lies in their intelligence, in their wealth, in their education, in their beauty, excessive kindness, family status, career, in their deen and talents, and will use them excessively to impress those they are interested in. Umar, I see you went off a bit. Are you okay? Can I continue?
Chima, we can continue.
Okay. So aside from codependents who seek their validation, there are also codependents who believe that their worth lies in their intelligence, in their wealth, in their education, in their beauty, in their excessive kindness, in their family statuses, in their career, in their understanding of their religiosity and their talents, and will use these excessively to impress those that they are interested in. For example, if it is beauty, they will fill up someone's phones with selfies, and if it is their career, they will always talk about their achievements. If they are religious, then they will send lots of Islamic information, quotations, and posts. And if it's kindness, then they will overwhelm others with their willingness to compromise, favors, and offers of help. Narcissists will quickly pick up on what gives them their sense of worth and will work to destroy it by not validating it later in the relationship. Therefore, the safest and the healthiest element of our own self-worth that needs to be shown to people first is the element of self-respect and having boundaries. The element of self-respect and the element of having boundaries, and we've spoke about this in detail in our past discussions, is of paramount importance that we all set our correct boundaries when having relationships with people, by which we establish our own self-respect. When we put our self-respect on the front line to fight our battles, we need to make sure that it's strong and it protects all the wonderful traits that we possess, so that people cannot destroy our own self-respect. When we don't have self-respect as their defender, then abusers are able to seize our good traits and destroy them. It is possible that people can lose their beauty, people can lose their wealth, people can lose their career, but self-respect and dignity will forever remain if you protect and maintain them. It is known that narcissists won't waste their time and effort on people who have a strong sense of dignity and boundaries that are difficult to break. Therefore, we should be conscious and know and be aware of the plots and the ploy that narcissists use, that when they use their talents, their careers, etc., we should be well aware of them, and we should set our own boundaries for our own self-respect. Due to the very jealous nature of narcissists, which usually stems from the sexual relationship they themselves have been in, and their disguised misogyny, prejudice for women. They look for codependents who are chaste, don't have much of a past, and who have weak boundaries. As they have very fragile egos, they fear and hate to be compared to other people. And so they look for those with whom their own ego and self esteem won't be compromised. They don't care if they aren't deserving of chaste partners. All that matters to them is getting what and who they want. And therefore, we should be extremely, extremely on our guard when people try to love bomb people. Muslims who are celibate are often a prime target for narcissists because they are the cream of the crop, because not only are they considered to be pure, but they can be corrupted too if they allow narcissists into their lives. As we've mentioned earlier, narcissists have a subconscious satanic mission to corrupt and ruin the iman and the dini aspect of believing Muslims. They don't always need to present themselves as being religious to enter the lives of good Muslims, because they have this magical charm that works wonders for them. And we are talking about all of this so that, and I'm repeating this regularly, that we need to be constantly aware of the ploys that they use to draw people, innocent people, religious people into their traps. The overtly religious Muslim narcissists, on the other hand, are known to have problematic, disturbing pasts, many involving turbulent and unlawful relationships. Many of them had relationships, they had relationships in the past, and many of their relationships were turbulent. So they had problematic pasts involving relationships, unlawful relationships, including sometimes even invalid marriages. And therefore, we spoke about the secret marriages. And those who don't have these problematic pasts will most certainly have had a traumatic and difficult childhood and a difficult upbringing. And we spoke at length about problematic childhoods. We spoke at length about problematic upbringing. So these men tend to be overtly jealous and will hide their wives and even ban them from posting decent photos of themselves on social media, even when their accounts are private and don't have any male followers who aren't family members. I need to make this very clear. Whilst talking about this, in no way are we promoting the use of social media for posting our own posts and photos. That's not the purpose of our discussion. We need to keep in mind that our lives should be private as private can be. Posting posts of ourselves on social media can draw much jealousy, never, and that is not what a Muslim should be doing. But if you happen to do that, you need to also be aware that sometimes you will observe that your partner becomes extremely jealous. Those are red flags that one needs to be cognizant of. Please keep in mind again, and I'm repeating, we are not talking of the permissibility or the non-permissibility of photography. That's a totally different discussion. Here we are talking of a manipulative behavior and using Islamic texts for one's own selfish behavior. Again, I repeat, we are not talking about the permissibility or the non-permissibility of photography. That is a totally different topic at all. In the context of our discussion, what we are talking of, to be aware of manipulative behavior, and sometimes our partners using Islamic texts for one's own selfish behavior. They claim that this is a type of ghira, a jealousy which is honorable for Muslim men and is taken from Islamic moral teachings, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that men who don't have healthy jealousy over their wives are the youth, men who approve immoral behavior, including being dressed inappropriately in public from their wives. Now, this concept of healthy jealousy is something that Islam advocates, it is something that Islam promotes. And every man should be one who has this healthy jealousy. If he does not have it, it is called ghira. If he does not have it, he is himself ignoble. Yes, that is the Islamic lesson. However, many a times, many a narcissist will use these types of texts for their own manipulative behavior, whereas they themselves do not observe this very same principle of morality and modesty. And that is the fine distinction that we need to have in mind. Narcissists use the excuse that they don't want to be the youths in order to exercise full control over everything. Their wives do, even when it's permissible Islamically, that may hurt their feelings and egos. So again, I'm repeating this repeatedly, so it is embedded in our thoughts, in our minds, and in our discussions. The discussion that we are having is that one needs to be aware of the manipulative schemes that narcissists will use. Many a times they will even use Islamic texts for their own manipulative objectives. So whilst they are chipping away at the self-esteem of their wives and destroying their confidence, they don't want other people, men or women, to lift them up by complimenting them on their beauty and their achievements. Some men will stop their wives from working. Now, this is again another aspect that we need to understand the discussion in the context of our discussion. Some men will stop their wives from working, even as doctors, for example, using the excuse that there are men working with them, when in reality they are just intimidated by the independence of their women, who are admired by everyone for the work they do. Keep in mind that if you need to work outside your home, the normal Islamic text and the normal Islamic laws of morality and modesty has to be observed. Whilst observing the normal Islamic norms and the laws of modesty, if you work within the confines of Sharia to fulfill certain professions, there is leeway for that in Islam, again, whilst observing the Islamic parameters and the laws relating to that. However, you will find that some narcissist men will be extremely jealous because of the achievements of their partners. They also assume that all other men perceive their women in the problematic way they themselves perceive women, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. So by taking away what makes them feel insecure, they are able to reclaim their power. And unfortunately, this is all done in the name of Islam. Again, we are talking so that we are aware of these manipulative schemes that narcissists would use. They exercise the extreme meaning of jealousy that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not have approved of, because if this behavior is meant to be Islamic, then many people would have left Islam. Islam, above everything else, is founded on good and kind manners, and showing aggressiveness towards someone who isn't an enemy to you on the battlefield is wrong and violates the laws of Allah, and it also violates moral conduct. Allah Ta'ala commanded Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to be kind. He commanded Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to be gentle to the disbelievers, to give a good impression about the beauty of Islam to them. This is also a means of dawah. And so if this is how he was taught to treat his enemies, then our spouses, our parents, and family members must be treated in an even better manner and in the most loving way possible when being advised. In fact, Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. And if you had been rude in speech, harsh in heart, they would have dispersed from around you. So pardon them, ask forgiveness for them, and consult them. Consult them in the matter. Once you have taken a decision, place your trust in Allah. Surely Allah loves those who place their trust in Him. What we are driving here is that narcissists will use Islamic texts to manipulate their partners. One needs to be aware of these manipulative schemes. And if you need to address certain issues in your home, you need address them in the most kind way, not by oppression. May Allah Ta'ala give us the understanding.
I mean, Ma, we have one question that has come in so far. Jazakumullah for benefiting the Ummah, especially women, with this beneficial, crucial, candid, telling it like it is program. However, here's a question that has come about. A man befriended a prostitute and gave her a job, saying he is helping her to keep her off the streets, but the family soon got to know that he was also so-called helping himself. The man uses the excuse, "Did you see me commit zina?" to defend himself, always saying that he did nothing wrong. Now, perpetrators will never admit to committing the sin, shamelessly knowing that the evidence of catching or seeing the perpetrators in the act is virtually impossible. But evidence from the spouse or spouses definitely know the habits and routine suggests, without a doubt, that zina was committed. The question is the defining statement of guilty the actual evidence of seeing a picture or video of zina being committed? She asked that please respond to the question as if you're talking to the spouse, this lady who is really already mentally, emotionally, physically affected by events, and then you have to tell her this. Sadly, for many women, the answer to this question is unfortunate and heartbreaking. Comforting to know, though, that there is a hidden blessing in all difficulties.
What is the question again, Mona? Sorry, I didn't get the question itself. I see there is a comment about an incident that has come up, but I haven't understood the question itself from this discussion.
So she asked, the question is the defining statement of guilty the actual evidence of seeing a picture or video of zina being committed?
So they actually saw a picture or a video of the zina that was committed by this man. Is that what?
No. So what they say, Mara, is that because of his actions and the spouse knows that the way how he carries on, that the man, although said that he's helping this friend of his helping her, but in actual fact he was helping himself with this prostitute lady. And she says this is known by his character. So the question comes about that: can you only tell a person that he's guilty of zina by actually see the picture or video, or can you even say just by the actions that he's doing?
Okay. So basically, man, the law regarding witnessing the act of zina applies when the Islamic capital punishment needs to be meted out. So that is the requirement when Islamic capital punishment, meaning for zina, stoning or lashing, has to be meted out. There has to be that type of evidence. However, here there are circumstantial evidence that certain actions are being committed. I think here the person needs to be cautioned about it. And obviously, we are not living in an Islamic country, so there won't be that type of punishment meted out. However, here I would suggest that both of them go to someone whom they can discuss the issue with, so that the issue can be resolved in a amicable way where, inshallah, good can come out. It may not be an ideal situation that we will talk over radio, because it's a private matter between two individuals, and rather they can go to some counseling regarding this issue, instead of me making some pronouncements on radio of a private matter on a public platform.
Okay, well, the next question that comes about, we live in an era where women do go out in public. How do we address this practice in the light of what we are discussing? Men may not understand that we live where women do, and will leave their homes to work or study. As long as women uphold Islamic morals and values, the world and the culture we live in has also changed a lot.
Yes, Mara, this is something that we are facing a lot in our times. If a man wants a wife who will remain hidden from public life, he needs to be upfront and inform her of this before marriage, instead of forcing it upon her afterwards. This is very, very important. So before marriage, you would know the profession of the lady you are wanting to get married to, and these are issues that you need to be discussing prior to marriage. However, COVID narcissists know that if they are honest about what they want and expect from the beginning, most women will run for the hills. And so women must use their intelligence and analyze people's character properly, preferably with the help of a male relative. So this is the first condition, that prior to marriage, when you are wanting to marry each other, and both the husband knows the profession of the wife, these are things that you need to discuss previously. Overt religious Muslim narcissists who aren't hiding their narcissism will always be honest and say it how it is. So if women accept to be controlled by them and their understanding of Islam, then it will be from their own free will and with full awareness of what they are getting themselves into. High-level codependents are those who will accept to be with overt narcissists, as they don't mind being entirely ruled by them. Much of their self-perceived worth lies in their ability to obey and serve men, even if their marriages end up resembling slave-master relationships, because they were raised and educated to believe that the best women are those who are blindly obedient and will be highly rewarded by Allah Ta'ala for it. Their inability to believe that they deserve to be loved, they deserve to be honored, they deserve to be gently treated, kindly and equally hinders their progress to advance as Muslim women, when they are later left to feel worthless by their husbands, who later force everything upon them, using the name of Allah with a foot on a throat attitude. Some women are able to tolerate their husbands having full control over them if they are kind, if they are generous, if they are fair, which is fine, but if it works for them. But those who accept to marry narcissists because they appear to be very masculine on the deen are usually destroyed spiritually, emotionally, and even mentally during the marriage. These women are usually forced to tolerate their husbands marrying even multiple women in the name of Islam, even when they don't have the financial means to practice polygamy properly. I'd like to provide some beneficial advice here. which covers the Islamic viewpoint on it as well, as we can't live with someone before marriage. It's important to disclose any issues that could be a problem for a future husband or wife. Because as Muslims, we don't live with a proposed woman prior to nikah, then in our discussions prior to marriage, we need to have some very frank discussions. Since we can't live with someone before marriage, it's important to disclose any issues that could be a problem for a future husband or a wife, especially if it can affect intimacy later on. It may be any mental health disorders you are aware of, or have been diagnosed with some criminal records, large amounts of debt, psychological issues, even if it's regarding, certain psychological, emotional issues, physical body issues, hygiene issues, medical issues, physical health issues, even your menstrual cycles that last more than 7 days. It is always best and recommended that you speak to people who can help you solve these problems by directing you to suitable clinics, therapists, counselors, before you decide to pursue someone for marriage. This will help to greatly reduce any chances of hurt, any chances of divorce, and any chances of rejection later on. Majority of the issues we face when it comes to marriage are a result of either being deceived or settling for less than we deserve. Majority of the issues we face when it comes to marriage are a result of either being deceived or settling for less than what we deserve. Many people are compromising on deal breakers and marrying people who are still suffering and haven't healed from their childhood and sometimes even adulthood traumas. It's important for those who are willing to marry to be realistic, acknowledge that the majority of people, including ourselves, will have some unhealed wounds, and so we need to assess how many wounds people have and how deep they are before we decide to marry them. And these are important things that we need to keep in mind. Yes, Moran, I've come to the end of, I think, our discussion today. If there are any questions that you have, we can always take them.
Jiman, I think that was the only question that was asked today. Inshallah, we can close up the discussion for today and continue next week.
Inshallah, Marana.
Inshallah. Ma jazakallah for your time. Much appreciated. Inshallah, we'll speak again next week, Wednesday.
Inshallah. So again, Marana, that question that has come in regarding the lady, and I think I'm not trying to brush it away. I feel that couple needs very, very professional help. If they want to, they can contact me. I can direct them to some people that will be able to assist the wife and the husband, because here I think both need the help, and we will be able to try to direct them to someone who possibly, inshallah, will be able to assist them, inshallah.
Inshallah. Ma jazakallah for your time. Much appreciated. Inshallah, we'll speak to Marana again next week, Wednesday. But just on a note, I'm going to take this question now. Marana, I'm going to send you the question. The Marana can read the whole write-up properly and just so that we know exactly what maybe we must understood the question.
Yes, and therefore I'm suggesting, Marana, that they can contact me and I can have a private discussion with them so that I can understand the trauma or the difficulty that the couple is going through. And inshallah, with Allah's guidance and Allah's help, If we are unable to assist them, we will direct them to someone who will be able to assist them, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah. Inshallah, we'll speak again next week, Wednesday. From Zahir Ahmed Ragi, from myself, Muhammad Bam, from Brother Ziyad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Hajj, a spiritual milestone for